apparently some people that work in dark, smoke-filled rooms in closed-door meetings, and they don't allow the public to be there.
Well, let me ask you this. Who would own America if it was, let's just say, another religion that was in there and had stood up and called
Well,
a different kind of prayer?
you see, ladies and gentlemen,
Do you think we would have had...
this is what I was trying to tell you. You know,
And here's what. Let me just interject this, because there was a Muslim prayer meeting at the Capitol last week in Washington D.C.
Right.
And there was also a counter demonstration by a different religion, and I'm just wondering how you how you winnow out freedom of religion on the one hand. This school official is allowed to preach, if you want to call it that, in an official setting, and on the other hand, you have a weekend setting, and we have the same people complaining about another religion meeting per their constitutional rights at the mall, at the National Mall. So how do you sort of reconcile those two things?
See, this is what I have to deal with, ladies and gentlemen. When I have the left-leaning Green Party, I didn't say anything about freedom of religion. I said I was proud that people showed up at a federal courthouse to take America back.
But who took it from them?
We allowed government to take it from us, and judges who have overstepped their power for years and years, activist judges that have taken away, for goodness sakes, I'm legislated all the way down to a particular plant that might grow on a piece of property that I own. For goodness sakes, it's completely out of control.
Well, we don't want kudzu running wild. But I'm just going to say, I'm just going to add this. If it had been a different religion at Pace High, and a teacher who had stood up and presented something from that religion that maybe those people had objected to, I think they would have been out there screaming bloody murder to get that person out of school, and why are they teaching my kids this heathen stuff, et cetera, et cetera. You would have heard the same people with the opposite perspective.
And I will tell you this, and I know where you're going.
No, I'm just telling you. I don't want anybody's religion. I don't want anybody's religion being taught during school hours.
We've gone too far, Deborah. We really have. In my humble opinion, the consent decree should be thrown out. I will agree with you that the law of the land, that the Supreme Court, even though I think they're wrong and they went too far themselves, it would be improper for a school administrator to preach to a student.
Well, let me just share this with you. When I was at a large northeastern university, and my relative was also there. My relative was in a class, it was a computer-oriented class, where there were teacher's assistants from another country who would refuse to call on female students. And they demanded the right to be able to refuse to call on female students because that was the way that their religion worked.
Well,
and there was some sympathy for them.
Well, I understand that, and I'm going to say, I believe in freedom for all. And I have.
Unfortunately, there's no religion that agrees with that.
I have,
credo.
And I have actually said this to you before. If you will allow a prayer to be said for the safety and protection of the athletes and band members and people at a Friday night football game, I am okay on a rotational basis that it can be the Methodists one Friday night, the Baptists, the Muslims, and whatever religious group, as long as it's done on a rotational basis and as long as it's for the protection and safety of those involved in the events that are going on there. Not to get up there and preach, but to say a prayer.
But the problem with that is that will always turn into ugliness. There's no case in history where that hasn't become
I guess
ugly.
that's why we've had
There's big wars going on
I
right
guess
now,
that's why we've had 2,500 years worth of religious wars that we know of.
Exactly.
And
including this one right here.
my thing in all of this is I don't agree with the consent decree. Okay. I also don't agree, and I'm gonna look in the camera when I say this. I do not believe my current school board members handled this in a proper manner. This could have easily been nipped in the bud a long time ago. Now we have a consent decree that we're going to have to argue about. The ACLU, we're going to write a check to them for $200,000. We have a Tallahassee law firm, about $75,000 or so. Even the school board attorney has sent a bill to us for over $20,000. When I believe it all could have been avoided if we would have simply read the Constitution and understood it a little bit better. I am all for having a prayer at a Friday night football game. Okay, and your liberal leanings, you can go hug a tree all you want to. I'm still going to feel that way.
Yeah, well, my question is, why does a teacher have to give it? Why can't a student come up and give it?
And I agree with you. I agree with you.
Nobody's objected to that.
And part of the problem is on my side of the argument. That falls in the category of I don't think we've handled it correctly.
Mm-hmm.
It is my belief that on a Friday night, if a student walks up to the press box and says, "May I have a microphone to say a prayer?" that student can say a prayer, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. That's where my side doesn't understand the law well enough to take those appropriate steps.
Just as long as your side understands every student that wants to say a prayer is going to go up there, and they all have to have equal time.
That's what I said before. First come, first serve. I just think it's so important. This is part of our roots in our community. It's part of the roots of our nation. And I just think it's got completely out of hand. Let's kick over to a little economic stuff here. A lot of talk about Southwest Airline in the news recently.
Yes.
So now we're talking Southwest. Apparently, what I read in the newspapers and what I see on TV is if a Southwest plane lands in your community, all of a sudden everything is rosy and beautiful.
Yeah, the predictions are that it'll bring more tourists from all kinds of different areas. It'll lower existing fares. It just generally improve industry.
More tourists comes here so that our kids who have a 4-year college degree can serve them a drink at the Copacabana.
There's also some thought that it'll improve the climate for industry. It's just another carrier that'll be available. Flights to other areas that'll be available.
But we don't allow industry here. So
well, I don't know about that.
Well, what industry do we allow?
We don't have industry here.
We used to, but we ran them all out.
Well, I don't know about that. I think there's a will. I just don't think there's any industry.
Well, everybody gets excited. Oh, look, another hotel is going in.
Right.
Okay, well that means one of our college degree students from Santa Rosa County can bring towels to the room.
Well, the excitement here is based on maybe it'll bring something besides hotels. Now, whether that's true or not, I mean, there's no way of knowing.
Well,
obviously, it increases the number of flights.
Right.
That will be coming in and out of the area.
And
at a bare minimum.
And let's kick around some dollars here.
Yes.
Your county commissioners are potentially discussing right now increasing the bed tax by 1 cent.
This is if the carrier actually decides to
set
up shop.
If they come here.
Right.
And let's make that
it's
clear.
Contingent on
we're not going to give them money and them not show up.
Correct.
They have to sign a contract to be at the hub here.
Right.